Hello and welcome to Let's Program Color Mixer Part 3 with Ciantier. I don't think I introduced myself in Part 2, but that's okay. It's still me. So what we did last time is we processed hexadecimal. Yeah, so now you can go like, I want this color. And hit enter, and it gives you this, because this now accepts enters. You can manipulate these. I made a double buffer, so that way when you go into your alphas, it doesn't flicker horribly. And that's about it, because it turns out programming takes a while. Or it can, anyway. So, that's what we did there. Here's our lovely code. Process hexadecimal string. We don't need a bunch of extra G's, but it was fun. I'm going to do that to hide it, and this to hide that, because I don't need all that there, and this is fine. So what I want now is I want a, let's go underneath, or let's go right here. Public int parts. Get, yeah, just get. You're not going to be able to set parts. And what this does is gives us how many parts are of this color we will be using. Okay. So this is going to be part of the fancy bit. I'm just going to put return 0 here for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this that's for our hexadecimal. I'm going to narrow it up a little bit because it doesn't need to be quite that wide. I'm going to sidle that over to there, put another label, because it's always good to let your user know what their controls are for. And we're going to call this parts. So the way the color mixing is going to work is you're going to take colors, and you're going to say how many parts of the final color of that color you want. How many parts of the specific color you want in the final color. So that means the perfect thing for this is a numeric up-down. And I'm going to fit that into here. Wait, there we go. And I'm going to call this parts. And we're going to let it just go 0 to 100 default for right now is fine. So then we're going to come in here, and our return instead of that is going to be int parts.value. This is a decimal, so I need to cast it into an int to be able to return it as an int. Okay, so for now, I believe we are done with our color control that we have spent the past 2 episodes making. It has taken us about an hour. Part of that was talking, I am sure, and explaining stuff, but that's fine, because that's part of why I'm doing these, is to explain things. Okay, so we don't need this anymore, so we're going to get rid of it. There are 2 things that we want here. So I'm going to grab a double buffered panel. It's one of our double buffered panels. I'm going to call this final color display. This is going to need to do some very similar things to our color control display, but we'll get to that in a moment. We want, where is border style? Fix 3D so it looks like it's all indented and stuff. We're going to need just an ordinary panel for, we'll call this colors. Colors panel, so we know for sure what type of thing it is. It's not strictly speaking necessary. Where is auto scroll? We want this to be true because we want it to show a scroll bar when we've put enough stuff in it. I want to make this a fixed 3D as well, and a back controller of control dark because I like how that looks. Okay, so I want it about this width. Let's narrow that down. There's a lot of bells and whistles we could give to this, but I'm not too worried about all of the possible bells and whistles. Let's make this slightly taller, though, so we can get a few more colors into it. And then I want to grab a text box right here. Multi-line, so we can give it multiple lines. And about yay tall. Okay. So then I'm going to call this info display. And this is going to be read only, which means the user cannot modify the text that shows up in there. Now, you could theoretically add a remove color option. I'm not going to do that because that requires adding some functionality that I don't feel like messing with. And if you don't want a color to show up, you can just set it to 0 parts, and then it won't have any added. Okay, so this is going to be add color button. It is going to say add color. Now, something that I want to do here is put an ampersand in front of the A. Now you notice over here it gives it a little underscore. What that means is if you hold down Alt and push that button, A in this case, it will automatically do it. I'm going to call this clear all, and this doesn't need a little one of the shortcuts because you probably don't want to do it by accident. Okay, so we can double click on these, and that will give them a nice little thing to make them pop up here. Okay. I just realized something we need to add to our color control panel. So that's swell. This is going to be really easy to add. So I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to go public event event handler. It's just a generic event handler that .NET gives you. So it's very, very useful. Color changed. This is going to be really important. Called whenever the color changes or the number of parts changes. Period. Okay. So what this thing is going to do is it's going to allow us to be able to hook up stuff and say, hey, the color changed. Time to drink some water. These have been a week apart for you if I've been keeping that particular schedule, but they have been back to back for me. So right up here, you remember our update rendered color? Well, what you want to add, if color changed does not equal null, that means somebody is letting us know what to do when our color changes. Color changed. We'll go this null. A lot of that stuff doesn't matter. Now this is saying that you can get rid of this check. I don't know that's always been the case. I'm going to keep it there because it makes me feel safe, but may not actually be necessary. Okay, so I want to come here and go, don't need that, parts.value changed. Yeah, that's fine. And I want to add this line. Okay. Now, what we want to do is, let's see, there's a couple ways that I can do this, but I think a straightforward way is to make a list of color controls. Let's call it colors. And we're going to go ahead and make a new list because we're going to want to make use of it. So add color button, we'll go color control. I'm just going to call this CC. I usually, when I make a temporary reference to something like a control or a form, I usually just use the initials of the thing's name. It's just a convention that I have. You can do whatever you want. It's your choice. It's your program. But we're going to make a new color control. We're going to go cc.color changed. And we're going to go ahead and make this. Yep, that's fine. Then we're going to go colors panel dot controls dot add CC. Now, before we do that, we want to go colors panel dot controls dot or let's actually do it this way. CC dot location equal new point 3. It's just a spacing I like. You can pick your own spacing if you'd like a different one. And then if dot controls dot length count greater than 0. So if there's already some existing controls, we want to go to controls dot count -1. This is going to get us the last one. Dot bottom +3, and we want to set cc dot top equal to that. Whoop, I don't know what that was. Okay, AKF format. Just make sure everything's nice and formatted pretty. So what this is going to do right here is this is going to put the control at the bottom, hopefully, if everything's right. It could potentially interact weirdly with scroll bars. I've had that issue. I'm not entirely sure the best way of fixing it. I think this should, but I'm not positive on that. Okay, so then we also want to go colors.add cc. So when we clear all, what we want to do is go colors.clear, and we want to go colors panel dot controls dot clear, and that will get rid of all of the controls. So the next thing that I'll also want to do here is go final color display dot invalidate and info display dot text equal no colors frowny face. All that needs to happen when this changes is to take our final color display and invalidate it. Because what we're going to do is we're now going to make the paint for that. So final color display dot paint. Name's fine. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to do our color final color. Okay, so this is something we're going to be building up to. So I'm not going to make it yet. Instead, I'm going to go decimal r equals 0, g equals 0, b equals 0, and a equals 0. This is just declaring 4 decimals all on one line. You can separate them with commas if they're the same type. And then what I want to do is, how am I going to build this up? Because this is going to be interesting. So I'm going to, this is probably not going to be like the most beautifully efficient thing, but I need to collect some data. So I'm going to go decimal parts equals 0, and then for each color control, cc in colors, parts plus equals cc dot parts. Okay, so that's going to count how many parts there are, which is really important because we need that piece of information. So unfortunately, I can't do this in a single pass through the array, but that's okay. Doing 2 passes is still n time, which is something most people don't need to care about anyway. But it's a measure of efficiency. So like n means you're like iterating through it. N squared means you're iterating through it basically everything twice, or not twice, but like n. You're iterating through all items once for every other item, effectively, or kind of how you think of it. So don't worry too much. I'm babbling. Okay, so what I want to do now is Actually, yeah, okay. I think they default to 0 parts, which is fine. So then I need to go for each control, no. Color control CC in colors. And what we want to do is go R plus equals CC dot parts divided by parts. Automatically going to convert that into a decimal. And then this is going to be CC dot R times. There we go. So what this is going to do is this is basically going to scale the R value of this particular color control by how many parts it has out of the total number of parts. I should do this if parts is greater than 0. Because otherwise we have to divide by 0, and nobody likes divide by zeros. Nobody knows how to do divide by zeros, which is the big reason why nobody likes them. ESG. Whoop. I don't know what's happened there. Well, I do. I hit enter instead of the thing that I wanted to do. Okay, RGBA, RGBA. Cool. We are happy campers. So let's set up some variables for our color components. Figure out how many parts we have. Grab the right amount of each color based on the number of parts it has. And then make a color and draw it. Okay. So here we can just go solid. Okay, so there's actually something that I want to do. And as we all know, programmers love copy pasta. So we're going to come down here, up here. Where is my paint function? Preview paint. Here it is. So we are going to be able to make our color. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go color. Our color equals, and I'm calling it our color because it's very convenient for me to do so. Because when I copy paste, it means I'll have the same variable name. So I want to go int a, int r, int g, int b. Okay, so back over here. Remember this guy? Yeah. Let's go ahead and make this a public constant, just because that will be able to simplify some stuff. So we're going to go ahead and take this, come over here, and paste it, because again, we want this functionality. So this is going to instead be our color.a, because that's useful. And this is going to be color control.squaresize. Because we can just go ahead and grab that. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill in all of our square sizes, so that way it knows what we're talking about. And then we want this to be final color display instead of preview. Okay. Now we will make a brush from our final color, and I need to make sure this function is getting closed. Okay. Now, if I have done this correctly, it will work. And if I haven't, it won't. Okay, so here you can see our final color. There's actually one more piece of thing that I want to do, which is add the information about the color to that, but we'll do that in a second. So let's go ahead and make this red and make this green. Okay, so if I give the red one part, it should have been... Okay, that should be red, but it's not. Okay, so obviously the very first thing I need to figure out is why is this not working? So I'm changing the number of parts. I'm adding blue. That should be running. Okay, so this is not working. Clear all works. No colors, sad face. Let's add a couple colors and give them. Okay, so none of these are. Oh, this is peculiar. Huh? What am I doing wrong? No, this is the one that I need to look at. I forgot the else. I forgot the else, folks. Probably have too many of those now. Oop. Okay, let's see if that fixes it. I think that might help. That's an int, but it's being divided by a decimal, so it should automatically convert that to a decimal, right? No, let's just cast it into a decimal to be sure. Yeah, okay, it tells me that's redundant, so I shouldn't need that. Okay. Okay, so let's here add a color and make it sort of red. Okay. Yeah, that's what was happening, because I wasn't drawing. So if I make this green and red maxed out, that's kind of half green, half red. Add a little bit more green, you can see it becomes greener. As green accumulates more parts. Red gets more parts. It gets kind of orangier as red gets more parts. Now this becomes more interesting if I add in a color. Like, say this is 128. When you click on another control, it also fills it in. 64, and let's make this 192. And let's give this a part. Now it's kind of a weird brown color, and it's slightly transparent for some reason. I don't know. It looks like it's getting slightly transparent. That might be a rounding error. Like, I can lower that, and that definitely gives it some transparency. But you can see I add more parts of that, or I can add more parts of green. Like this one, it's very gray. So yeah. So that's what that does. Now, I mentioned that there's one more bit that I wanted to do, and I think this is going to be the last episode, everyone, so celebrate. Which is come down here. We have our color. So we can go info display.text equals r plus our color.r.toString plus okay, so what I'm going to do here is environment.newline plus g plus our color. So environment.newline is really useful because what it does is it inserts a new line as appropriate to your particular environment. So new lines can be represented typically in one of two ways, just the new line character or the carriage return new line. And it's really good to make sure that you're doing it in the way that will make an actual new line appear. Because if you don't do the full thing when it wants both, you won't get a space. And if you do both when it expects, like when they both count as a new line, then you get double space. And it's just, yeah. So environment.newline will always get you the appropriate character for your environment. So I'm just going to finish filling out these. Plus our color dot. And you might be asking, why isn't he using copy paste here? And the answer is, I don't know. Xcode. Let's see. Our color dot to. Well, this goes to ARGB, which is not quite what I want. There's you know, I'm gonna go ahead and just do that. Dot to string x 8. So if it starts with a 0, we'll get the thing. Okay. So this should, yeah, okay. So this gets us a default info of the 0000 and hex code 000. So if I add a color, I give it a part. Now this will represent that color, right? You know, whatever that is. So this should be basically that, but slightly different ordering. So if I add a color and I give it a part, you'll see that then this gets modified. So for example, this has effectively 2 parts to it, right? So it's going to be half of that, half of that. So if I add some blue, you'll see every other blue increases that. So this is really cool, right? So if I want more dark green, I can add a bit more dark green to it. And the more dark green parts it has, well, now this has more of an impact in the color than this does. So that's how the part system works. So that's what's going on here. So that's what this program is meant to do. You can add a bunch of colors. Let's see if I scroll down. Yeah, it adds one at the bottom. That's cool. That works correctly. That's good. As you might notice, this is a lot. A lot of parts. So if we just want to get rid of everything, we can hit clear all. So anyway, that is what this program does. That's what it's meant to do. So hey, everybody, we finished. We can now mix colors with our fancy color mixing program. And it took us 3 parts, and that's kind of cool. There will be future projects. But I'm not going to talk about them now because why? Why would I? I'm just going to mix a couple of colors here for fun. Let me know if you want the source code and program posted somewhere. I haven't thought about that until just now. This should be gray. But if that's something that would be interesting to you, you can let me know, and I can see about trying to do that. Yeah. So let me know in the comments if that's something that you want, now that we're done with this. Thank you, everyone. Have a good time. Yeah. Enjoy programming. It's very useful. You can make silly things like this, but you can actually make things that are more useful. Not that this isn't useful, but more useful. So anyway, this was a fun little project, so take care, everyone. Bye-bye.